Whether at home or work, life is about relationships. Welcome to Small Change, Big Dividends with your host, Branch Isole. Small Change, Big Dividends shares steps, tools, and tips for personal career and spiritual growth. So please welcome the host of Small Change, Big Dividends, Branch Isole.
Have you ever stopped to notice how similar people's lives are? We eat, drink, work, interact, make love, argue, fight. What's behind all these responses? What motivates us to react in the ways that we do? What is it that's rooted deep in our subconscious, guiding our thoughts, our words, and our deeds, pushing and pulling us in and out of our daily interactions? Where do we learn how to respond to all these people and activities? Would it surprise you to know there are 12 life lessons we all experience daily, over and over throughout our lives? In a few moments, we'll be looking at the 12 life lessons everyone on the planet encounters and is challenged by. Coming to you from deep in the forest, near the banks of the Ouachita River, this is Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave TV and Talk Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole, and you are my featured guest. Small Changes, Big Dividend is a show where your questions are part of the program. So if you have a question, email it to branchisole.com and use any of the contact links. And thanks for joining me today. Our topic this week is 12 life lessons we all experience. Each week I share a mana'o with listeners from around the world. On Small Changes, Big Dividends, we talk about personal, career, and spiritual Christianity essentials for growth-filled living. Today, I'm going to share some small changes that can pay big dividends in your relationships and your life. Because life is about relationships, but it's healthy relationships that encourage and embrace growth. Now, last week, we discussed 7 steps to repair a damaged relationship. This week, we're going to look at the next steps on our path, 12 life lessons we all experience. By examining these 12, we can begin to understand why we hold ourselves back from achieving our dreams, our goals, and our ambitions. Every life appears different, doesn't it? But when we look closer, we start to recognize that each of us deals with, contends with, and encounters the same 12 life lessons again and again, from childhood through adulthood. We live in a world that encourages us to focus on self first and foremost, with a what's in it for me attitude. As you'll soon see, these 12 life lessons actually do declare it's all about me, and they mean it. To illustrate these lessons, I want you to see in your mind a wall as I'm describing how these 12 relate to each other, as well as their impact on us. So visualize a wall of 12 layers. Each layer is a life lesson. Starting at the bottom on the ground floor level, our first layer is also our first lesson, and that lesson is insecurity. Insecurity is the initial lesson that every person on the planet confronts starting in childhood. Now, moving up from insecurity, our next life lessons are, in order of ascension, responsibility, dependability, reliability, accountability, and credibility. Now, number 7 is a bridge or transition stage, and it's risk. Above risk, number 8 is commitment. Number 9 is trust. Number 10 is forgiveness. Number 11 is truth. And number 12 is love. These are the 12 lessons of life that we each experience over and over every day in multiple situations with different people, events, and circumstances. With each lesson, we face 2 pivotal challenges. First, each lesson teaches and tests us through itself. And second, each lesson is capable of joining forces with any of the other 11 lessons, either simultaneously, in tandem, sequentially, or in any order. For this reason, at the speed and consistency these 12 can come at us, either in isolation or together, encountering them can often make life feel like a game of whack-a-mole. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's say you have a deadline or a project at work. Your boss, team leader, project supervisor is expecting you to contribute and do your part to the successful completion of this particular task objective. This automatically requires that you be responsible, dependable, reliable, and accountable all at the same time. In addition, your input or your part is just that. It's part of the overall project. You, along with the other team members, are all expected to be responsible, dependable, reliable, and accountable. So everyone on the project is constantly juggling all the possibilities of success or failure with and within these 4 life lessons. This pressure is then shared by all the team members. And if that weren't enough, everyone on the team has a private or family life they're also juggling and coping with as well. So, how can you overcome this constant playing defense against the onslaught of life's challenges? And what knowledge can assure you that you can successfully move from each lesson to another? When we look at these lessons closer, you'll notice that the first one, insecurity, our ground level, is where every person starts. As children, we all begin to feel inadequate or insecure about ourselves. This is invariably one or more of the things about ourselves that we question or dislike. And it's constantly reinforced by exposure within our families, our neighborhoods, and our schools. The fact is, no one gets out of facing or fearing their insecurities, be they real or imagined. Every individual in every age, in every tribe, in every nation comes into the world as a newborn and malleable babe, frightened, unknowing, and insecure. And yet the simple truth is this: every individual who has ever overcome adversity in their life first overcame the power they allowed their insecurities to have over them. Otherwise, their insecurities would have continued to cripple their efforts to succeed. As long as you give power to your insecurities, whatever they may be, you are helpless to help yourself. We each must grow by addressing and then overcoming our insecurities. Insecurities most often begin with a mental thought that I am either too or I am not, as in, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too shy, I'm too fat, I'm too bald, I'm too uncoordinated, or I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not colorful enough, or I'm not sharp enough. So, how do we escape this negative attitude and image? We begin by realizing that every person alive, every person who ever lived, every person grapples with doubts they have about themselves or about their abilities or about their opportunities. Those who overcame, those who succeeded in accomplishing their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, did so because they found ways through, around, over, or under the power they mentally gave their insecurity. As long as you're in the grasp of insecurity, you'll never be free of its power over you. Free to begin conquering each life lesson you encounter every day. And we're going to break for our first commercial. When we come back, we're going to look at the second key on this new path of success. You're listening to Small Change Big Dividends on the Bold Brave TV and Talk Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole, and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends, and I'm your host, Branch Isole. Here's our next key for success when we're challenged by life's lessons. It's our second life lesson layer, personal responsibility. This lesson is pivotal because it's our launching pad to conquer every lesson challenge thereafter. By addressing and accepting personal responsibility, we take control of our words and actions. By accepting personal responsibility, we harness our power base to confront and conquer every lesson challenge that life may throw at us. When we take responsibility for our words and actions, we eliminate the need for excuses. And without excuses, there's no longer a need for lies. because excuses are fabrications we conjure up for why we avoided or want to avoid appropriate actions, behaviors, and responses. Look, we all make mistakes. We all make errors. We've all said or done things we wish we could take back. By accepting personal responsibility, growth is allowed to come about because learning from mistakes gives us the opportunity to embrace the power of accepting and applying our personal responsibility in any given situation. By no longer repeating inappropriate choices, we eliminate the negative consequences from our life. This new self respect reveals that our old patterns of continually digging deeper, the holes of our discontent and discord, now cease to be obstacles any longer to our future success. Therefore, we should cease them to be part of who we are. So let go of your insecurities. They're yours, they belong to you. Therefore, you have the ability to eliminate them and their power by understanding you control your self image thoughts. When you take responsibility for your thoughts, for your words, and for your actions, you can change your entire life. Now, let's look at the other life lesson layers in our wall. Number 3 is dependability. Number 4 is reliability. Number 5 is accountability. And number 6 is credibility. Now, you'll notice these are highly cognitive, task driven skill sets that promote essential stability, industry, business, commerce, and team focused activities. And more often than not, these are male dominant areas. This is the hunter side of the hunter gatherer model. While at the same time, the other life lessons, commitment, trust, forgiveness, and their more often female leaning applications, that is, the gather side of the hunter gatherer model. If we focus exclusively on excelling in one set versus the other, then our motivations and results may be reinforced accordingly. Perhaps you've heard the adage, opposites attract. Oftentimes, people who are high achievers in one set may innately be attracted to their opposites in order to bring about or establish more balance in their prospective relationships and lives. But whether it's relationship balance or life work balance, the goal of balance is to achieve equilibrium both within these two sets and within each of these 12 lessons. Think of these 12 as ladder rungs. With one foot on the bottom rung, we start our climb in our upward motion. Our success in each lesson is rooted in a single concept and word. That word is worthiness. It's this single concept that holds the strength and fortitude we need to start our ascent. In worthiness exists our mental trigger of whether or not we are able to overcome the challenges from each life lesson that we face every day at home or work. But what is worthiness? As we go through life, many stare at the mirror and wonder, am I worthy? Do I have worth? Are my words and actions valued? And these are formidable questions. So, where does worthiness originate, and how do we recognize it? More importantly, how do we accept it as our own? Because we are each part of God's creation, worthiness is inherent in our being. As part of creation, we are therefore worthy of God's love, because God loves what He has created, and all He has created has purpose. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for Him to create it. So we are each here as part of God's purpose, and therefore we each have inherent value and worth, first to Him, then to each other, but most of all, to and for ourselves. It's this sense of worth that gives us the impetus and the motivation to attempt all we might of our dreams, our goals, and our ambitions. But what's the key? What's the key that determines acknowledgement of this worth and value? In a single word, it's respect. Self-respect first, and then respect for others. Those who fail to respect themselves transfer that disrespect to their world and to the people in their world. Now, they may not believe it, they may not understand it, but their motivations and actions towards others, in particular towards those they claim to love, honor, and care for, are often on display as disrespect, proving their own lack of self respect. Otherwise, they wouldn't act maliciously, disrespectfully, or unlovingly. Respect is the fuel, first for ourselves, then for others, by and through our character. Now, our character is the essence of who we truly are. It's the engine driving our nature, and therefore, it's the power behind our responses and our behaviors. Our character is revealed and is on display by how we operate in our world. Our character is exhibited daily through our behaviors and our responses to and with others. The question in every situation, with every person or circumstance we encounter, becomes: are my behaviors and responses appropriate or inappropriate? Meaning, are they moral and ethical or not? First, with those we're close to, our family, friends, and co-workers, then outwardly to those who come into our lives. If we each have worthiness, and we do, then everyone in our life has value. I once heard a lady describe life as a series of opportunities to express our space, our place, and our contributions to, for, and in our relationships at home and work through respectful understanding and appreciation of others. As long as we struggle with life's 12 lessons, we can never exercise life's opportunities fully to embrace, encourage, or exhibit worthiness. Through our daily activities, we often find grappling with life's lessons not only takes up valuable time, it can occupy our focus, keeping us from successfully doing well. Here's the key: God gives us each a skill, a talent, or a purpose, something special to use in order to excel and give back, first to family, then to friends, then to neighbors, and finally to our community. If we embrace our worth and value, we will see and recognize worth and value in others. It's this understanding that provides the essential for life's wholeness for us to experience. Now we're going to take our second commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about Pinocchio. I hope you remember that story. We're going to examine Pinocchio's choices. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality? But it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating. Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividend. I'm your host, Branch Isole. We are all prodigal children, little Pinocchios, if you will, enthralled by the glitz, the glamour, and the glitter of the world. None of us are alone in this coveted quest. We put aside our sense of place by leaving home in a gloried, rebellious state to full-throttled embrace and be part of the world's ways. Why? In order to be recognized and to not be alone. We think making our mark, establishing celebrity or legacy, will bring worthiness through admiration of the world, particularly from those we know. But even in our greatest successes, we discover we are alone with ourselves, exchanging what we are willing to do or sacrifice for perceived success in the eyes of others. In this way, we often end up questioning our own value and its costs to our self-respect through our choices and their consequences. Many are trapped in the world's maze of struggles, chasing illusions erected as benchmarks of self-contentment. And yet, we soon discover the more possessions we have, the more responsible for them we become. The more things we own, the more of our time must be devoted to having and keeping them. The more we try to control, the less time we have for freedom. Until finally, we recognize our original worthiness is in our connection as a valued part of creation and the opportunity to play our part, contributing to a greater good for our families, our friends, our coworkers, even our acquaintances, by finding value in ourselves for our world. Self acknowledgement is rooted at its core through our interactions, first with those we know and care about, and then by extension to those we work, play, and interact with. And finally, with growth to all those we come in contact with in our small world. If we discover our value outweighs the time invested in pursuit of Pinocchio style possessions and accolades, the clearer our understanding efforts to establish balance will be revealed. We soon realize the purpose of life's lessons are not to hamper us or to keep us groveling, struggling, or fighting. The deeper understanding becomes an awareness that life's lessons are opportunities to more fully embrace all that life is offering and all it's asking of us in every situation. Through cognition that life's lessons are not challenges, they reveal themselves as the rungs on our ladder of ascension. They become our freedom makers, allowing us to be all we truly can be. One by one, as we accomplish growth within and through each life lesson, we no longer dread their presence, their appearance in our relationships or in our lives. We can now use this new knowledge and awareness to strengthen our efforts to respond to each lesson as it comes to challenge us. By knowing their purpose and navigating them, the lessons actually release the power needed to propel us forward and upward through each lesson. Life's lessons may appear masked as adversaries, but once we see behind the veil, we realize their power is for us to use and not to fight. Every week, I try to answer a question from one of our viewers and our listeners. And this week's question comes from Beverly in Oklahoma. She's been listening today and says, I think I understand what you're saying about worthiness, but how do I go from level to level on the ladder? That's a great question. Let's see if I can clarify for Beverly and for others who may be wondering the same thing. Worthiness is our sense of self, both of who we believe and think ourselves to be, insecurities and all, and who we would like to be within our sphere of influence, with our family, friends, coworkers. Our worth is reflected by who we would like to see ourselves become, in our best light, doing our best work, and being our best self. If we now recognize that each life lesson challenge is an opportunity to be our best, we can then respond and excel through our efforts within that specific lesson. Our success within any lesson can be hampered by anticipation of failure or rejection. Our doubts of self can become overwhelming, stopping us from achieving our goals, our ambitions, and our dreams. Our self image can constantly alter our focus through self-perceived shortcomings or insecurities. If we give power to our insecurities, as long as they're there, we can never be anywhere else. We are stuck in that place of insecurity, overwhelming our thoughts. In that way, we can never accept the challenge offered by each rung of the ladder. Now, perhaps you've heard the statement, nothing succeeds like success. In every Horatio Alger story of someone who overcame adversity, who faced difficulties, they started with their insecurities. They were tested again and again by manifestations of their own insecurity. Thinking they might fail, success is hampered by setbacks again and again. However, once our mindset is free from insecurity, steps to reach that pinnacle we dreamed of and worked so hard for start to come into view. Now, Beverly, I know you've seen, heard, or read positive mindset quotes and sayings, which are everywhere today. So much so that one has to wonder, with all this positivity, why are things so difficult? What's missing in that space between reading and perhaps even believing these motivational scripts and actually reaching our pedestaled pinnacle? What's missing between believing in positivity and seeing it come into fruition in our lives? Well, what's missing is a sense of true and real self-worth and worthy self-image, or what today is overly promoted as the imposter syndrome. So where's the missing link between those who read these quotes and those who actually go on to accomplish their dreams? When we understand we're not perfect and that everyone struggles with their own self-perceived imperfections, we begin to see that there are others better off than us and others worse off than we are. But more importantly, in either case, their lives are not our lives. Once we overcome insecurity, each life lesson thereafter becomes an opportunity for growth. Now we're going to take our final break, but when we return, I'm going to share with you an actual real-life business example of turning insecurity into success. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole, and we'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back. You're listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Global Network. And today we're talking about 12 life lessons we all experience. The insecurities, the personal responsibility, and the using power of 12 lessons that we confront every day to improve our relationships at home and work. So let me give you a real life example from business of overcoming insecurities that then mean growth and profits. You may be familiar with the company Cologuard. It's an at-home, do-it-yourself colonoscopy diagnosis. Now, if you're familiar with colonoscopy, you know it's not complicated, but it's not the most pleasant procedure to undergo or prepare for mentally or physically. This makes it highly unpopular, to say the least. So people put it off or tend to avoid it altogether. When Cologuard first came on the market, their strategy was to try and convince gastroenterologists to use the Cologuard system. But there was a backlash. Many doctors thought Cologuard would cost them business by taking clients they had been diagnosing. These doctors were exhibiting business insecurity, thinking that Cologuard would cost them patients and revenue. But here's what actually happened. Because the Cologuard system is so easy to use in the privacy of one's own home, requiring no preparations, Cologuard use skyrocketed. And for many of the test takers who might have avoided a doctor visit, their colonoscopy exam found clear and clean results. Others who tested positive among those who took the Cologuard procedure indicated they needed further medical assistance, knew right away, and were able to receive their medical intervention earlier. This benefited both the flow and the numbers of patients that gastroenterologists actually needed to help and subsequently could get paid for helping. It's a win-win-win for patients, doctors, and Cologuard. It was easy for the patients. It was revenue generating for the doctors, and sales for Cologuard skyrocketed. When we see each life lesson challenge for its rewards instead of its struggle, it becomes a growth opportunity. So Beverly's question hinges on, how do we identify each lesson's benefit? The answer is by mastering the second rung or the second level, by taking responsibility for our words and actions. The second rung is the most important because once we've put our insecurities aside, we can now embrace accepting responsibility for what we say and do. Within every lesson or layer, without doubts of our past insecurities plaguing us, we now see opportunities in each lesson, and we now have the key for success within each lesson by removing doubts and insecurities, and then by applying personal responsibility. Each success truly becomes ours, and any future setback is just another opportunity to learn and grow from. This is why we no longer get blunted by different lessons coming at us in singularity, in pairs, or in multiples. Because at the core of each lesson is our new opportunity to take responsibility for our words and actions, resulting in success and growth. It's these two small changes that can improve life with every lesson. So, put your insecurities on the sideline and take responsibility for your words and action. Do these two, and you'll start moving forward more easily with every life lesson challenge in both your relationships and your life. I'd like to thank Beverly for her question. If you have a question, email it to branchisole.com and use any of the contact links. Join me next week when we'll build a 14-point framework for success you can use at home or at work to improve your relationships and to improve your life. Thanks for joining me today. On Small Changes, Big Dividends, we discuss personal, career, and spiritual Christianity essentials for growth-filled living. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them. If today's show has been helpful for you, please give us a rating and review. And to know more about my work, I invite you to visit my website, branchisole.com, or my YouTube channel, Branch Isole. Today's show has been sponsored by Crystal Creek Farm. If you have a business, a product, or service you'd like to share with the world on Small Changes, Big Dividends, send your inquiry to branchisole.com. You've been listening to Small Changes, Big Dividends on the Bold Brave Media Global Network. I'm your host, Branch Isole. Until next week, all the best.
This has been Small Change, Big Dividends. When you're ready for healthier, more successful relationships at home or work, Small Change, Big Dividends is your show. Wednesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.